Hey everyone, this is Stu the editor here. I just wanted to flag before the episode starts that Lucy's audio is going to cut out here and there. She was dealing with some spotty Wi-Fi while recording. Thanks for watching and listening, and enjoy the podcast.
Did you guys see Luigi Mangione rocking those loafers with no socks?
This can't go on the podcast, no.
Could definitely go in the podcast because everyone's like, I saw this is like, oh, now I know he's Italian because he's wearing the like loafers with no socks.
Yeah,
so I was like, yeah, because the name wasn't much of a giveaway.
Loafers, no socks, and the handcuffs. What an iconic
I know, right?
image.
But like, okay, but to be clear though, is that actually like an Italian thing in America where like loafers with no socks is an Italian thing? Is that a thing? I mean, you're Long Island Italian, so you would know if anyone.
I would say a lot of dads do it, but also some business bros rock that.
Okay,
as well.
Because I've actually done it my whole life, right?
Okay, yeah.
So,
Okay.
but it's not an Italian.
Guys are into it. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. It's not an Italian thing here, though. It's just kind of like I don't know, just a thing that you do. So that's why I was like quite struck by it. People are like, oh, that's
because Australia's too hot.
Nah, I don't know why, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's like boat shoes. It's just a thing. I don't know why.
Yeah, those ugly ass shoes.
Yeah.
I only know boat shoes from the
so many
Succession
pairs.
line. Where he's like, Tom talking to Greg, and he's like, you come in here with your boat shoes. Like that's my only frame of reference for boat shoes.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
Wait, speaking of Australia, can I ask you something, Ralph?
Go on.
I learned a new word. Dim sim.
Okay.
Not dim sum. Oh, so you have dim sim.
Yeah, I mean, look.
What is that? What is this all about? Because I know what dim sum is, but...
Okay, dim sum is, like, we call it, in Australia, we call dim sum yum cha, right?
Okay. Like yamcha?
Yum cha.
Oh, sorry,
right?
I got excited.
Which my understanding is actually means drink tea. And maybe it's just like the Mandarin version of the Cantonese word. I'm not sure about it.
Okay.
But dim sim is it's a food item, right? And it's like a little, you know what? No one fucking knows what it is. It's like a Chinese sausage. It's like a Chinese sausage roll. It's just like this little processed meatball thing that no one knows what's inside it, but you eat it. You probably have the same thing in the States, but you call it something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So dim sim is a specific food that you might eat at Yum Cha, which you guys call dim sum.
Okay.
There we go. That's how we do it.
That was good. Thank you. I learned
worries,
that.
man.
And I was like, I heard it was an Australia thing. And I was like, I need to know.
Wait, how did you hear this was an Australian thing anyway?
I listened to like a podcast, like another podcast with Australian people. So I pick up on all
like cold ones?
Things.
Is it cold ones?
No. Wait, what is that?
Oh man, you got to check out
like
cold
hot
ones.
But cold?
No, it's like Max Mofo and anything for views. And
Are they the guys who do the nickname thing?
Not that I've seen.
That was a really
They're just
good
guys
bit
that
on
usually
an
drink a lot
Australian-
of alcohol in their videos. Max Mofo got really big back in the day, like doing Pokemon card unboxing stuff.
Oh man.
And anything
Pioneer.
for views got famous for doing all sorts of crazy shit. Man.
Oh my God.
Like, just a lot of stuff. Anyway, so I didn't know you watched listen to an Australian podcast. That's interesting. What's it called?
It's the Weekly Planet. It's Mr. Sunday Movies, and they just talk about movies and stuff, and it's really good. It's like a good comfort watch.
Yeah, sure.
I've been listening to them forever, and it's like they're like the type of podcast where like they talk about all like the Marvel movie news and stuff like that, but they're like over it. It's like way funnier. And they're just like I think they're gifted comedians. I don't know if they're like technically comedians by trade, but I just find them really, really amusing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Speaking of, did you guys see the new Cat movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What'd you think?
Yeah, you were supposed to text me, but I knew you were.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot.
Oh, man.
No, I totally forgot. Because I guess I immediately forgot that movie as soon as I left the cinema.
That's it. I saw the movie. I totally forgot.
It's like,
yeah.
I'm on hotel Wi-Fi, and that completely like passed out. So I was like, yeah. Cat movie?
No.
Which one?
The Captain America Brave New World.
Big New World.
It was pretty shit. It wasn't like the worst film ever, but it was just incredibly boring and forgettable. And I think the worst part of it was actually Harrison Ford, right?
Oh, really?
He's just too old now, man. He just can't do it anymore. And I love the man, don't get me wrong, but like he just can't do it. And if they'd have cast the original the other guy that played Thunderbolt back in the day, and the other, like, do you remember? You know the other actor they had casted him a while back. He died. He died?
He's been in all the MCU. He's been in all the MCU movies, and he died.
I don't remember when he died. Okay, right. This is how like forgettable.
The actor died. No, the actor died. Not.
Oh, the actor died. Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, right. Okay, because I'm like, he was great. I was like, why didn't they cast him? Now it makes perfect sense why they didn't cast him. That obviously, but but Harrison Ford, man, unfortunately, not great.
Damn, I thought he was the only one that was really like trying.
Nah, man.
You don't think so?
I think he was trying, but
I think I'm just drawn to him as like that old superstar where you just see him and you're like, he's amazing. But
I get it.
It's hard not to talk.
What was that little musical interlude?
That was the Balatro theme from the Game Awards that I have repurposed as my ringtone for my phone.
Wow, hang on.
That's how cool I am. That's right.
You have
the fact that you made the little like Zoolander face, you did like the eyebrow after. You're like, yeah, I'm so cool.
That's right.
My phone has been on silent since like 2008.
I know. That's what everyone says. Everyone says their phone's always on silent. No. It drives me nuts. I guess because I'm often wearing headphones, I kind of need that. And yes, just
and you also are like me, where you have a job where you're not really around like normal people all day. You can have your phone just do silly sounds all day.
Absolutely. Like the codec sound, just whenever I get a message, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I think it would drive me insane. I can't. I have to have music on the whole time. Like I can't have little beeps and boops. Yeah.
Totally.
You know, it's a good one. My friend has the cyberpunk phone sounds.
Oh, nice!
Like all the little in-game like menu sounds and alert sounds. Oh man, it sounds great.
I like it. So, Luce, tell us why. Where are you now? You look like you're in a conference meeting room.
I am. Lucy James Inc. is setting up a regional office in Tokyo. No,
that's right.
I'm in Japan. I haven't been here since 2019, and so
that's a while. For nerds like us, that's a long time.
That's a very long time, and I have missed it. And I'm here to see Expedition 33, a game made entirely in France by a French team. But no, it's very inspired by a lot of Japanese games, like Final Fantasy VIII in particular. So they had an event here, and we shot some cool stuff with the devs. But I can't talk about it today because of where embargoes have lined up. But obviously, I haven't been here for a while, so I used all my credit card points to pay for an extra hotel. And then my friend is coming. My friend lives in Japan, and she was like, I can just pop on a plane and come see you. So we can have a nice old weekend.
Lovely. Yeah. That's super nice.
Buy a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you bought any weird Japanese shit yet?
Nothing weird, honestly. So I did bring a spare suitcase. I put a suitcase inside my suitcase and brought that over. Nice. And we went to so basically the yen against the dollar right now is very much in the favor of the dollar. And also there is a tax-free incentive. So that's unfortunate for me because everything is very, very cheap.
Sure.
So basically, I mean, the main store that I hit up was Uniqlo and Don Quixote. So
just get some fresh
cosmetics are done. All my cosmetics are done. They have Berserk shirts. So I got some Berserk shirts.
Nice.
That's all you.
Got a bunch of makeup, and then we did hit Akihabara yesterday, but that's really expensive. I found.
Yeah, it's just a big tourist trap.
Is it really?
You know what I did buy? Yeah. Wait. Hang on.
I love me some Uniqlo, but the problem is I fit into most of the stuff. Like I really hit the hard limit on size for that. What's that?
So
is that the sports almanac in there?
Everyone goes to. Everyone goes.
Thought you liked that one, Jake. That was for you.
It's an iconic. She's holding up an iconic plastic bag.
Everyone goes to Super Potato for secondhand video games, but Super Potato's quite expensive. So I got.
Oh yes! Hell yes! The Japanese release of Golem on PS4. Hell yes!
Oh, that's great.
It belongs at a museum. That's brilliant.
So, do you know how expensive this is?
Oh my god! I'm gonna guess it was at $80.
No.
More or less.
Way less.
Oh, okay. Damn. I thought. Well, they're not pricing it correctly. They don't know what they've got on their hands.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So I'm going to guess, what was that, like $10?
It was 500 yen, so maybe $3. A little
wow. Is it used or new?
It is secondhand. Okay. However, hang on. There is a sticker on top of the price sticker. Let's see how much they originally priced this for.
Just imagining some like Japanese dude who buys it over and he's like, damn, this game sucks, man. I'm trading it in. And he takes it back to the store.
It was originally priced for like $23.
Okay, right. Okay.
So someone had big dreams.
Yeah, right.
But yeah,
that's cool. That's a great find.
Yeah, I was happy with that. So now all my work stuff is done. I'm going to just explore, buy some stuff. Basically I have a Boss Coffee sandwich in my hand. A Boss Coffee and an egg salad sandwich. That's my little treat after I finish recording.
There we go.
Anyway,
you
this
gotta
is
watch out for Mr.
podcast.
Shakedown. Look out for that guy that's gonna beat you up and take your money.
There are so many like little car park areas, and I was like, I've beaten up a guy in Miyaka's. I've beaten up a guy in there. Or like, it's so good. I love being back here. Like I walk past the vending machines, and I'm like, press X to check for money under there. Maybe there'll be 1 yen or something.
Are their vending machines really as good as they look?
Oh, God, yeah.
You can get really coffee in the vending machines and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like,
you can get hot coffee in the vending machines. And it was from I went to the Family Mart next door, and this was on the shelf, and it was hot when I picked it up. They're living in the future. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a video game podcast.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. We've been going for 15 minutes. I think that's our longest cold open without really hitting video games. I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's fine.
Yeah. Oh no, I was saying like,
what are we talking about?
How is this week? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's happened. Like obviously, Monolith shut down.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, because
I feel I feel like those sorts of things. That's just another, and not to dismiss it, because obviously I've covered it in the news show as well. Of course, and unfortunately, it is yet another example of just like shitty executives doing shitty stuff, like other people paying for their shitty mistakes, and you know, like you cover that news, and then it's like, what is there to say on top of that? It's just sort of like, unfortunately, there isn't anything left to say because we have said it before, and there's nothing more to add. And they're not going to change. Like, you know, the Warner Brothers guys, like, we're going to double down on the Game of Thrones license. I'm like, what? Why? Oh, what's going on? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just. Say again.
Does this one hit different for you? Does this one hit different for you at all? Like, because I don't know. I know it's like another example, like Ralph, like you said, of, you know, the corporation, the people at the top not understanding what they have, absolutely fumbling the whole entire process, and it results in canceled games, wasted time, wasted money, people's livelihoods. But like, I can't help but feel like there's so many, like there were so many of them happening back to back that, like, I don't know, I just can't help but feel like worried about the entire situation. Maybe it's like I'm just too plugged into the news, but I'm starting to feel like doomer about essentially the entire AAA game development.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, look. Yeah, I don't know. I never know where to come down on that, because, you know, in one moment that's happening, but the next moment Monster Hunter Wilds comes out this week, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, then we've got, like, I don't know, Split Fiction coming out like next week or whatever, which is obviously not a AAA game, but it's like it's being published by EA, you know. A few weeks back we had Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is like unbelievable. Again, that is AA, fair enough. Pirate Yakuza, that's a AAA, that's made by a AAA studio and didn't set the world on fire, but people really liked it. Like, I just think there are so many different data points you could draw from that kind of let you tell whatever story you'd like to tell.
Yeah.
But overall, the trajectory is not great. I definitely agree with that. Like, you know, you can certainly look at the struggles of Warner Brothers and Sony with its live service bets and Ubisoft and all their struggles and all this sort of stuff. Like, yeah, for sure. The trajectory is not looking good. I don't know. Yeah, I think obviously it's an industry very deeply in transition right now. And I think there's also a generational question that we're reckoning with. You know, like, realistically, we have been playing games made by these people the entire, like, for the modernity of video games. Do you know what I mean? Like when video games really started to pick up in the 90s and beyond, like those people who were making games back then are now stepping off because their careers are wrapping up. You know what I mean? And so that naturally facilitates a real changing of the guard at these studios, you know, studios like BioWare, for example. And, you know, obviously, you know, and Arcane and Monolith and whoever else. Like there's different people working at those studios than there were, you know, 15, 20 years ago. And so, yeah, I wonder how much of it is that as well. You know, like there's so much change happening with business models and with people who work at these places and whatever else. There's just so much disruption all the time that it just feels quite relentless. But at the same time, it does not feel like it's going in a good direction. That's for sure.
And I think as well, to the point there, it's like the discrepancy in the number of layoffs and studio closures in America versus the rest of the world, particularly Japan, Europe, where there are better working protections. People who are, people in general. But also, you know, there's always the talk of development in America is extremely expensive because cost of living, an expected wage over here. I'm in Japan. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But versus, you know, let's say Poland, where, you know, like development costs are significantly lower. The yen right now too, significantly. It's cheaper to make games, not in America, basically. We're seeing this. I don't know.
Yeah,
a lot of talent.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not sure which way it goes long term. Like I can't really predict in the sense that, you know, right? Yeah. Like, did we have a shortage of games of good games in 2024? No, absolutely not. Do we have a shortage of games in 2023? Absolutely not. We had a shortage of like good games for a little while with COVID, but that's COVID. That's a real sort of like anomalous event, right? Do we predict there's going to be a shortage of good games in 2025? Definitely not. I mean, my schedule is already too full to be able to review them. I haven't even had a chance to play Monster Hunter yet because I've been so busy sinking 105 hours into Kingdom Come, you know? So, I mean, and I contrast that with something like cinema, which is clearly fucked. You know what I mean? Like that industry is transformed and not in a good way. And so it's kind of like, well, does video games go down in that direction? And is it sort of sliding into fewer releases, less interesting chatter, less cultural relevance? Or is it just evolving into something different where you just need to get your kicks from different studios than you did in the past and you're playing a different type of game than you did? If I was a betting man, I'd probably bet on that. You know, I don't think video games are under threat in the same way that like movies are, you know? But I don't know.
Yeah. Well said. The thing with movies I find interesting though too, it's like, it's also an ebb and flow of like tastes and then also the things putting these things out that change. Like we just knocked on an MCU movie where that used to be like like a big part of my life was just loving that shit, going and watching that stuff. But like, even now, like, so now it's like we have that's on the downward spiral, but then like there's still stuff to go to. Like The Brutalist is a movie, like a 4-hour movie with an intermission. Like that stuff is still there. So I don't know. It's hard to compare like the two industries, but like, I don't know, even if the movie industry is bad in a lot of ways, all I'm saying is like there are things like, you know, A Complete Unknown releasing and people enjoying a Bob Dylan weirdo biopic. Like,
yeah, but then you see those things as like, oh, on this day back in 2001, like Pulp Fiction, Return of, like, you know, Lord of the Rings and fucking The Bourne Identity were all in cinemas on the same day. And you're like, okay, like there is this, you can look back on that era of cinema and be like, okay, well, that's gone. You know, it's not the same now. We'll get like 6 movies a year that we really want to rush to the cinema and see tops.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas it used to be like, there used to be 2 to 3 a month that I'd want to get out and see, you know, it's just, that's different.
Yeah, because I'm still playing the same rate of games. But it's funny you even say that because, like, you can look at, I don't remember what year, like the year Half-Life 2 came out. It was like Half-Life 2, this game. It was like just banger. The year The Last of Us came out, it was the same thing. You look at all these other games that came out the same year. So it's like that was a thing. And it still is a thing now. But
I was going to say, what are you talking about? 2023. 23 was that year.
I think that was that year.
Which year was Baldur's Gate? That was last year.
23.
Right? 23. Oh my God.
23. Yeah, absolutely. Because that was the COVID
Kingdom.
It was the COVID catch-up year.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, Alan Wake, like that was a banger.
Oh man, absolutely. But like even last year, I mean, like, you know, like Silent Hill 2 came out, and like Pacific Drive was small, but it was still amazing. And like so I don't buy into that broader narrative of like it's really fucked. But obviously there is a general contour of like, okay, these legacy studios are not there anymore. Or if they are there, they're not the same.
They're different.
You know, AAA scene is really evolving and it's not going in a great direction. They're spending way too much money on these big budget bets that are just too risky, and investors aren't going to have the stomach for them. So they're going to want to they're going to make smaller bets. But in a way, that's kind of also a good thing that they might want to do that, because maybe it does push them back more towards like innovation rather than just writing a license, you know, like Warner Brothers thought that Suicide Squad would be $1 billion franchise. And if anyone had any sense at all, they'd be like, well, that's never going to happen. So try and make something else. And they might have done that had they had more wisdom about them, or had they been forced to think differently about what all of this is. And so, you know, maybe these pressures do result in like a new influx of creativity and you know, innovation.
I would hope so, because I think at the end of the day, the power is still in. It's the same thing with Ubisoft. It's like you're sitting on great stuff. Like you have these franchises, but it's, can you get them out there? Are you good enough to actually cobble it together and put it out there? So what I'm curious to see now is, while this is all, because I mean, there's a recovery period, right? Like Warner Brothers, okay, like they unfortunately laid all these people off. They shut these studios down. They reorganize and they finally start, let's double down on Batman. Let's give the people what they want. It's going to take years. So I still feel like I'm curious to see what you guys think about like Japan and even China, like making the big moves into the AAA industry, like them really coming in hard, man. I mean, Capcom's been doing great. They're obviously also doubling down on all their good shit. Who else?
RGG for sure.
They've been pumping them out, and they seem like they're doing better and better.
Even Konami is kind of like trying to tidy up their shit. You know what I mean? Konami's like, they just put out, obviously, Silent Hill, the Metal Gear Delta is looking pretty rad. They're putting out that weird little octopus game. Much respect for that. I'm not sure why they're publishing that.
Paradox?
Darwin something or other, but Paradox.
Yeah. Paradox.
But like, that's cool, you know.
They are doubling down on Silent Hill as well. They just announced today they're working with Bloober again to make another one.
They didn't say Silent Hill. They just said another game.
No, something, they said IP. Like,
but it's got to be Silent Hill.
It shouldn't be Metal Gear or something. Like,
should it be? I was like, maybe it's Dance Dance Revolution. You never know.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, look, obviously, you know, but at the same time, Japan is not completely immune to this stuff. Like Square Enix has been fucked for many years, and they're really riding their mobile titles for revenue.
Well,
and like
they also
Bandai Namco
offloaded. Square Enix also offloaded all of their Western
operations. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bandai Namco had to like do that thing where they stuffed people in a room for ages and gave them nothing to do in the hope that they would quit, and then those people did quit. You know, that there has also been some stuff in Japan where things haven't gone their ways, but definitely not in the same scale as in Western markets. So yeah, I don't know. But look,
well, this wasn't originally. I was going to say, this isn't what we were originally going to chat about, but this turned into
no. Yeah. But I just think I always see this discourse about like gaming is so much worse today, and it's getting worse, and gaming sucks, and AAA's finished, and whatever else. And I just don't agree with that. I fundamentally don't. I think that, you know, for sure there are some big problems, and for sure it is harder than ever for good AAA games to get made. Absolutely, right? But it still does happen, and I think it will continue to happen. I think the AA scene is going to find more strength and growth over the future as more people leave that AAA space and form their own studios and make stuff. I still have more good games to play each month than I have time to play them. That has not changed, and I don't see it changing anytime soon, looking at the release cadence.
And I think it's important to note too. I think that that's whether you were a games industry talking guy or just a player, or just a player. Like unless you're someone that only likes one genre, or you only play big AAA Sony first party games, and that's it.
Yes.
But anything else, there is plenty to play.
But I think I think one thing that we're not necessarily thinking about, because yes, right now there are so many incredible games coming out at a rapid pace. However, we are, I think, going to have that COVID problem where we are going to catch up with the fact that we have years where no one is investing, projects have been cancelled. There is going to be still a dip. And even now, like people coming back from DICE, GDC is next month, barely anyone is funding. And so, yeah, there will be, you know, it's, and I've seen a lot of this discourse on Twitter, talk to devs and stuff, and it's like, they say, oh, just go indie. Well, it's like, you still need money. So what are you going to do? Like, get another full-time job and work on your game. You know, you are not doing that, so you're kind of running yourself into the ground. But also AA, you know, if you are lucky enough to have an investor in the first place to kind of form that smaller team and have a project of a smaller scale, you still have to be incredibly lucky to get that. And now the pool is getting more, like there are more fish in the pond because so many AAA devs are like trying to find that next thing. And I think this is going to catch up with us. There will still be great games. There will still be great games. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's necessarily going to immediately, we're still going to have issues for the next few years. Like this correction that everyone's calling it, because no one wants to call it like a crash.
Yeah.
It's going to be felt for years. And the institutional knowledge that people are losing, the great projects that we could have had, the whole thing fucking sucks.
Yeah, I do agree with that for sure. I think that's going to be felt in some way. Absolutely. You know, we're going to be able to point to some studios that were working on a game and that game just gets cancelled. You know, like I think a lot of the former BioWare devs were being funded by NetEase, for example, and like their own little studios they set up, and like it was two studios I think that they backed.
It was,
and they were working
Casey Hudson and Mac Walters, and then the other thing is that because NetEase have been pulling out. We're going to rephrase that, because NetEase have been.
Pulling out,
changing the way that they in Western.
Yep.
Because they've been killing funding. The Rebel Wolves devs had to say, "Hey,
yes,
we still have money. Don't worry, they're a minority investor. They still have money." But
yeah.
So I wonder how else it's going to go.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think there will be some of that, but at the same time, I don't think we look at the whole landscape of gaming and say like, okay, no, that this is in trouble. You know, I don't see it quite that way. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? We only have our own perspective and what we see, and yeah.
And at the end of the day, what we play.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yep.
This could breed a whole load of innovation. You know.
I hope so.
Oh, so changing topics, I'm interested to hear. I don't know, like, okay. The Avowed discourse definitely got me thinking about some stuff, right? Because I saw a lot of feedback to my review, you know, the review you did, Jake, the discussion we had on the podcast, whatever else. And the discourse around Avowed's reviews, I think, is really disproportionate to the reality of those reviews. And I think it got me thinking a lot about like how people are using reviews right now and talking about them and whatever else. So what I mean by that is that like, I think if you went on the Avowed subreddit the week after like, you know, the reviews went up, I think you got the impression that that game was just mercilessly dumpstered by critics, that everyone hated it. Because every second post on the Avowed subreddit was basically like, I can't believe the critics hated this. Where's all this hate come from? The critics are wrong, blah, 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 blah. Whereas the reality is that on Steam right now, I think Avowed is sitting at like 75% positive or whatever. So like that's Steam reviews, mostly positive, 77%. Okay. On Metacritic, I think it hit like a I don't even know. It's like it's like an 80, wasn't it? Metacritic Avowed.
A lot of reviews were glowing.
81. Okay. Yeah. 81. So it's like put 8 reviewers in a room, and you know, like put 10 reviewers in a room, 8 of them will like it, you know? So I think at the same, but then I think like the some of the more negative reviews got way too much play in that discussion. And obviously mine was one of those reviews that I think was really disproportionately referenced, because it's just like, it's just one review, you know what I mean? It's just like one opinion, and there's no reason that my opinion should be any more valuable than anybody else's or talked about anybody else's when there's this critical mass of critical reviews of critic reviews that are out there that are positive of this game, right? And I think I also saw another conversation like on the / gaming subreddit, which was basically like professional reviews have become useless to me because all reviews are either like this game is a masterpiece or this game is absolute dog shit. And that's not true in the sense that if you look at professional reviews, most of the time they're sort of saying something is like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Do you know what I mean? Like most of the time it's a much more nuanced take. And I think, for example, with our review of Avowed and our discussion, you know, I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it either. And I think we're all on a similar page. Like we didn't love it. It's not a terrible game, but it's also not one that we really loved and we wanted to play more of. You know, we certainly were hoping for more from the likes of Obsidian, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Mm-hmm. At no point did any of us be like, this game is fucking garbage. You know what I mean? But I think that a lot of reviews get pulled into this very polarized review discussion about like, you know, if a reviewer says something is not great, it instantly means that it's dog shit. And it's like, well, that's not what they're trying to say. So I guess all of this was me just like reflecting on all of this and thinking about like, how are people using reviews these days? How should they be using them? And should in like inverted commas, because like whatever, people would use stuff however they want, right? And like, what's our role as reviewers in trying to like set the right expectations for how to use reviews correctly and like the way we talk to our audience about games? And like, could we do a better job on that in terms of like, you know, setting the right expectations?
Yeah,
it's interesting. I feel like very often, especially in terms of like the Avowed example, reviews are used more of just a jumping off point for a point of discussion, for better or worse. For things like this, where it's like you're defending the game because of a review you thought was too harsh or something like that, or just talking about systems in the game. I don't know. I think sometimes people are their mind is already made up of like whether or not they're interested in the game. And the reviews are just another way to talk about that thing that you're interested in, more than an actual like, I am going to buy this because this person's analysis said it was pretty good. I don't know. I think there's an entertainment value to reviews. I think there's a discussion jumping off point that people value. I think reviews always, like, I see it in my comments and stuff. People will always be like, oh, you know, I didn't really think that was going to be that good, but now that I think I'm going to get it. Like, so that still happens. I see that a lot. But I think there's like this whole other thing to it. Reviews are kind of like their own weird world. And we've seen this for years now where, you know, people will have incredibly strong opinions after reading or listening to a review about a game that they didn't play yet. You know, and it's not me like saying, well, you didn't play it. It physically is not available to be played yet. So some of the things that you are, you know, freaking out about or reacting to, in my opinion, like there's nothing really there yet because you haven't played it. You haven't been able to even like watch a walkthrough of it, like, because none of that stuff is available yet. Yeah. So it's interesting how I'm kind of waffling a little bit, but like, it's just reviews now. I do really feel like, because I grew up, I mean, like I try and just like my own personal experience, right? Like reading magazines as a kid and seeing GamePro and seeing their like little fun factor score and like the faces where they're like, how much are they smiling? That was your review rubric. Yes. I didn't like drill too hard into that and be like, well, they gave that 4 smiley faces out of 5. And then they gave this other game I don't like 5 smiley faces. Like, I don't know. I never got really caught in that. And I think for me, that's why my videos are like go by feel. I don't do review scores. I don't like review scores. We've never really talked about this, but like, I'm not a review score guy at all. Yeah. Yeah.
I like the way both of you do reviews. I think it's more nuanced. Like, not to cut you off, Jake, but I think, review scores. And I think as the internet rots our brains even more, we are the scroll to the score. I don't agree with this number. I'm going to be mad about it. Sure. Like, there's a lot of that. There's so much of it. Like, obviously working on the Gamespot side where we do still score. It's tricky because you also like, even those people like reviewers at IGN, Eurogamer, wherever, Gamespot, they will write a nuanced and like well thought out piece of critique. However, it's because it's attached to an outlet and not a person. There seems to be like this vitriol where it's like, well, GameSpot gave it an 8 rather than, oh, I read this intriguing critique on wherever and then they came up with this number. Like adding a number to a review score is a whole art in itself. Like there will be discussions about whether something is an 8 or a 7. And whereas I prefer, like even film, like I prefer how Mark Commode,
classic.
He's a fantastic reviewer. I love listening to him and Simon Mayo, or I love listening to the Besties or you guys, or like when we chat about things, it's just like you get more of a perspective. And I feel increasingly that it is just impossible to assign that number or that grade onto something that is so multifaceted. And yet, because the internet now, increasingly so, is very reactionary, it is so much easier to digest that number or that grade, react to it.
Yes.
Oh, this interesting point about whatever in the game, so that was my
I think that's
agreement with you.
Very true. But it's funny, so I have gone on a real journey with all this stuff over the years in terms of how you like, what's the final value you assign to something, or like how do you communicate that value? Because when I started reviewing games, I did put numbers on stuff at the beginning, and I'm like, I don't really feel this. This is not working for me. I'd rather have like a more nuanced take on it, right? So then I would have like my conclusion or my thesis for the video in the thumbnail, and it was always very like kind of, a big declarative statement. And then people would say, oh, that's very clickbaity. And they're like, and so I got very self-conscious about that because I'm like, well, I don't want to be accused of being clickbaity. I don't like that. That's not what I'm trying to do. So then I decided that I wouldn't have anything in my thumbnail other than the word review, right? And then to make it even less clickbaity, I said, I'm just going to give you the conclusion to the video in the title, and I'm going to say and all I'm going to say is whether I recommend it or I don't recommend it. You know what I mean? Like that's it. But then we've now come to a new point where people think that title is clickbaity, because if I say that I don't recommend something, that's clickbait. I'm like, bro, there's nothing in the thumbnail. I'm giving you the end of the video in the title. How is this clickbait? But I think you're right. It's about that point where people just go to the end of something and they're like, well, just give me the brass tacks. I want that thing. I don't give a fuck about any of the nuance. I just want that thing. And, I personally am a defender of review score numbers, even though I don't use them.
Oh, interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I personally think that is that gun to head moment when you actually have to ask a critic, like, okay, cool, you've got all this stuff to say. Fine. But let's like just put it in a context that I can just quickly grapple with as a starting point. And I think this is the difference for me, right? My hope is that number becomes a starting point that helps you kind of like contextualize how good this game is overall. Like if you see a game is 3 out of 10, you're like, whoa, shit, what the fuck went wrong here? And then you can kind of like dig around a little bit further to understand why it's a 3 and whatever else. Yeah. Or similarly, if a game is a 9 out of 10, you'd be like, okay, this is clearly a really good game, but why? Let's like understand that. But I think a lot of people just see the 9 as the endpoint. And it's like, well, that's what that means. The 9 is it. It is a 9 out of 10, full stop. And then they begin the process of like comparing that 9 to other 9s and to 7s. And why did this, you know what I mean? So for me.
But why is the number, why is it a number versus what you do, which is
because I
don't recommend, I highly recommend.
Yeah, because I believe, in my personal view, people like it. They do. And that's part of what this business is. Yeah. People like that thing. And so I'm like, okay, you like it. Fair enough. I can see the value in it. I can see the value in pushing a critic to really like just assign that thing, to assign that number, to really focus their thinking and really just get them to kind of like surmise all of their thoughts and feelings and whatever. And there's something in that is interesting. You know what I mean? But I don't believe it should be
like a severance. That number gives me a feeling.
Yeah, scary numbers, exactly right.
Scary number.
So, but as I said, I don't believe that then should be the end point for the discussion. It's sort of like I think it could be an interesting, it's an interesting hook that pulls someone in, and they go, "Whoa, that got a 6. What's up with that?" and then they learn more. Not like, oh, they got a 6 full stop. That's it. This game is trash. I don't want to learn any more about it. And I'm now just going to argue about why this game is garbage. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. But
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like obviously like we live in increasingly polarized times, you know, in like in terms of discourse and what have you.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly some of the discourse I saw around Avowed, for example. By the way, I want to clarify something. I finished Avowed. There was all these, because we talked in the podcast about how I hadn't finished it yet, but that was because we recorded on the Wednesday and the review went out on the Saturday. So I just want to clarify that. That's just me, self-defense mode. Okay, I absolutely finished Avowed before I reviewed it, for sure. But the discourse that I saw around Avowed was very much like trying to pull these reviews into these kind of polar camps, you know, of being like, well, these people said this game is absolute garbage and these people said that it's a really good game or whatever else. But the reality was that a lot of the reviews were very nuanced and they had, you know, these more nuanced takes. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that I think people are often accusing reviewers of polarization. And they say all reviewers think that, you know, games are either a masterpiece or trash. But I think the reality is that the discourse around reviews is actually pulling those reviews into these polarized camps. The reviewers themselves aren't doing it. They're offering a more nuanced take on games. But the discourse that happens around those reviews is more polarized. And I definitely have noticed that with my reviews a lot.
Well,
and
can I even say to you, like in terms of how you approach your titling and how you've reacted to your audience feedback and stuff, naturally now your titles for your videos are best thing in the world, worst thing ever to a lot of people, because it's I do recommend or I don't recommend. Correct. Obviously there's a lot in between that, but that's how it can be read. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've actually thought a lot about that lately, about like, you know, people say to me, they're like, well, that's too polar, you know, and like, they're like, but I actually do have a rather awkward system where I'm like, well, I recommend it. And if I'm kind of mixed, like I was with Avowed, I just write like the name of the game review. That's kind of mixed. And then I have my don't recommend, right? So, but you're right. And like, that's an awkward system. A lot of people aren't going to understand that. They're going to be confused and whatever. And yeah, people just see don't recommend. Therefore, that means that game is absolute dog shit. But that's not what I'm saying necessarily. It's just like if I don't recommend something, it's because I personally didn't like it and I don't recommend it to you. But it doesn't mean it's the worst thing ever. Sorry, Luce, I know you want to talk.
No. I was going to say, just before we get too far away from the point, with regard to Avowed, I think the elephant in the room is that it is a first party from Microsoft in a year where they are moving to a multi-platform strategy. And so that is like this baggage that I think has also weighted a lot of the discussion around Avowed in particular. I wonder if, like, when the last time, like, another game that doesn't have this baggage, quote unquote.
Yeah, and obviously there's culture war stuff attached. Yeah, and there's culture war stuff attached to Avowed as well. Obviously, like that's a fact as well that creeps into a lot of these discussions. But I think even outside of that, you know, there is just that kind of, as I said, that general polarization with how a game like that is talked about, and it's challenging to overcome that as a reviewer. And I definitely think a lot about like how I position things and talk about things and what else I could be doing to try to adjust. And that's, you know, for example, with my Dragon Age review, which obviously was a very, very negative review. Okay. That was definitely in the camp of like, no, I think this is a bad game. Okay. Yeah. And it's okay to do that as well, by the way. Like, we're not up here saying, like, just because we're complaining about polarization doesn't mean that we then can't have any polarized takes, because sometimes you're going to have those. Okay. And that was certainly the case with me with Dragon Age. Anyway, the point is that in that review, I made very clear that like you should seek other reviews. Don't just listen to me or anyone else. Like you have to go out and seek that. And so that's something that I try and do. I did the same thing in my Final Fantasy 16 review because I knew how that would go down as well. I think that's one step I take to try and sort of steer the audience towards not doing the stuff that we're talking about here. I don't know how you guys grapple with this challenge.
I want to say something that I've wanted to say a lot in response to, like, before you buy, first impressions, reviews, anything I put out. I get a lot of comments that are very, very nice. They're all well-intentioned. Like, Jake, you're the only reviewer I trust, that type of thing. Sure. And I want to reply to every one of those people.
Can we talk about the Reddit thread? which was very sweet. There was a lot of love for you two, but there was one comment.
Any Reddit threads, please.
No, but there was one comment that just said, "I drink bleach if Jake told me to."
Okay.
Same.
Don't do that.
Same.
Don't do that. It's stick with Tide Pods. So with people who say that, like, you know, or even, not even me, skill up. You're the only reviewer I trust. You're completely unbiased, which is a whole other word and language we can unpack. But I always want to reply to those people and say, "You trust me now. One day I'm literally gonna betray you."
That's right.
And I mean that literally, because that's how this works. One day, homie, I'm gonna not like a game
totally
that you love the hell out of, and
absolutely,
you're gonna feel a disconnect. And it's about how you consume reviews and stuff, is how you react to that.
Yeah, I think it's so important to, and this is that, you know, the very famous Donkey video talking about, you know, game reviewers and what have you, and critics, and, you know, makes a lot of salient points in that video. And I think the most crucial one is you got to find a reviewer that you know, that you trust, that whose tastes align with yours. And that then does not mean that you just do whatever they say blindly, but it means that you listen to them and, you know, and you go, okay, cool, that's interesting. And then you make a decision based upon whatever else you are just like. You might watch other reviewers, or you might just trust your own gut and you want to play something because it looks fun. I have lots of people who watch me and they say this. They say, "Dude, you're so useful to me because I fucking hate all the games you love and you hate all the games I love." You know what I mean? So when you hate something, I know I'm going to love it.
You're like,
you know what I mean? Good. I'm like, all right, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But I honestly am happy to hear that, because I'm like, all right, cool. Then, you know, I'm useful to you in some way. So that's good. So I think, finding a review or reviewers that you trust, but having a healthy relationship to those reviewers, you know, not just, as I said, blindly trusting everything they say, but coming to help, but using them as an input into forming your own conclusions. That, I think, is the goal. And I think a lot of that nuance gets lost in online discourse, where people just like take a grab and then go, "Oh, well," do you know what I mean? So
yeah, and I don't know shit. So my process is fucked. For lack of a better word.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I could be loving a game because it just hits at the right time in my life, or I'm in the right mood and it just clicks.
Absolutely.
Where, you know, any other time that game normally wouldn't work for me. There's so many factors. And then what I do like just on a positive note, what I do like about how reviews in the gaming world have become such an interesting, strange cultural thing, and a thing that people really just enjoy engaging with, is that there are so many different types of things. I can read like a million word think piece about why this game appeals to me because it reminds me of my dead mom, or I can have a cold analytical, like mortismal review where he 100%ed the game. I can have Digital Foundry count pixels. Yes. I can have someone who just goes by feel and just talks about it. If I'm a culture war person, I can listen to somebody bitch about the game.
Shortage of that.
So there is like, I think there is the beauty that there is so many different ways to listen to talking about games and form your own thing. And then that's even a critics aside, there are the tools. I like looking at Steam reviews quite a bit. Especially like if I go buy a game, like an older game, I always check those suckers out just to see like how's performance, how are people feeling on this? Like, did the developers update some things? Like, I love all these different tools we have.
Absolutely.
Metacritic, the other one.
For sure.
I think the thing is, though, is that like we are so plugged in. And like you said, like there are critics that we've all followed for years. And so it's easier for us to say that because we are plugged in. Like we're on Steam all the time. Like we know Steam reviews. We know to listen to XYZ, read this, that, and the other. But it's like, imagine if you were getting into gaming fresh now, how do you curate that without like listening to and reading so many like reviews? And that's why like this whole discussion thing is like, hey, I just see the number and that's what I'm going to go with. Like we have this inbuilt knowledge pool just from years of being totally online.
When you say that, it's so funny, like someone coming fresh into gaming. I literally picture like Batman like dragging the Joker into Arkham Asylum and all the inmates are like, blah, 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 blah. Like that's someone coming into gaming for the first time.
No, I imagine it like Troy from Community holding the pizza and
with the fire.
Everything's on
fire. Yeah. But there is something to that with how people approach reviews, because the numbered score or the quick IGN scroll down to the bottom is a good at a glance if you're not super hardcore. Like,
absolutely,
for me buying other things in my life, dude, sometimes I just like, if it's some tech I don't care, like I love tech, but if it's some tech I don't care about, like a fucking humidifier or whatever, an air purifier, I just go to Wirecutter and be like, what's the best one? Or I go to Consumer Reports and just be like, what's the best one? And they're like, we tested 400 of them in this room. And I'm like, thanks, nerds.
I love this.
That's fine. That's glasses.
Yep. I get it.
No, I think it's weird where it's like, recently I bought a litter robot, and I did it. I spent 2-3 years deciding on which one I was going to buy, and I was just like on Wirecutter the whole time, because there is something a little more, I don't know, objective. It feels like, I mean, I don't know, how does a litter robot make you feel versus
it reminds me of my dead mom.
And that's the interesting thing about what this is versus so many other things, because games, and I think this is the point that Gene made when we talked to him about the nature of reviews a while ago when he came on the podcast. It's like, games are art, but they're also a product. Like, do they work or not? Like, you don't need to ask
spend money on it.
You don't need to ask if a movie works, because the projector will play it, and then you'll see it. You know what I mean? And unless they like really fuck the boom mic location in the shoot, like, the movie's going to work. Whereas with video games, like, there is an element of just this work, and but even then, that's in an objective sense. Like, can you load it, and is it buggy, whatever else? But then there's like another layer to the question of, does it work? And you might look at a game system, and you for example, Avowed's progression systems. And you'd be like, well, these don't work. I'm always under-leveled, even though I'm doing all the shit. And like, it's then you say, well, is that correctly designed? And there's like, you can sort of almost get to a question about like objectivity when you're reviewing game systems, which you sort of can't, but you also sort of can. But then there's the completely subjective stuff, which is like, did you like Kai, or did you like Marius, or whatever his name was, that boring ass dwarf dude?
Or even to the point, like, yes, a progression system can work numbers wise, but do you feel the progression?
Absolutely.
Are you satisfied by the progression?
Yes. Yeah.
Was it IGN who used to do like graphics?
No, they all used to do it.
Yeah.
All used to do it. And
then they used to take the average of all of those, which is God.
And like, and again, if someone were to run that system today, I'd be like, all right, I can still see the value in this. Like, it's not how I would personally review a game, but like, I could actually see
ACG is a great example. People love that he will say, okay, next up, I'm talking about the graphics.
Absolutely.
Next up, here's the sound, and like a funny pun. And like, people like that, because it's like, you want to know about the sound design, you want to know about the performance, you want to know about the story. Like, you want it broken down that way. Or you can listen to someone like me who's like, I don't know, man. The story's cool, but the gameplay sucks. I don't know.
I love it. No, I guess another thing that makes this quite challenging to really grapple with for reviewers. And I also like think about like MKBHD and like the kind of responsibility that he has in like the tech space, and that's another thing that like I know he grapples with that, in terms of like when he's talking about products, and he understands the strength of his platform and what that is and how he uses that. And I think that's certainly something that I'm aware of. And I'm, obviously nowhere near the size of MKBHD in terms of influence and what have you. But, I think that's another thing that I think about. It's like, well, how can I do the best possible job that I can all the time to make sure that I'm, providing my subjective opinion? Because that's ultimately what we're trying to provide, right? Mm-hmm. But to do it in a way that feels thorough. And again, I'm never aiming for objectivity, but I'm aiming to be at the point where someone feels like I've always done my absolute best to review something in good faith and try to explain it as well as I could, and try to provide as many counterpoints to my own perspective as I can, as is possible. I don't want to spend the entire review just arguing with myself, because that'd be fucking boring. But I don't want people to feel as though I've just like really unfairly one-sided a game as I'm talking about it, because again, I'm definitely very conscious of my platform and wanting to do the best that I can with it and for my audience. So I don't know.
If you had to scroll to the bottom of this discussion and give us a score, what would it be?
I think we could do more. I think we could break out this and do like a whole other podcast about this at some point. It'll be on the Patreon bonus nights
That's the Patreon that doesn't exist, by the way. We still do not have a Patreon. We just make jokes about it every time.
Yeah.
But
someone actually did message us and they were like, "Can we get an ad-free version of the podcast?" I don't know.
We're doing all right. We're doing all right.
The thing I do want to say is, in all the navel gazing and like jerk off session that this can sound like to some people, I do think that it is cool that we are in a situation and people listening and comments and stuff, that gaming is at this point where people are so excited to just talk about it and listen to it and pay attention to it all day. Everybody has a thing. And I always love when I hear somebody listening to the radio and just listening to sports statistics, or listening to a commentator get excited about a soccer player or something like that. And like the Mets and the Yankees and blah, 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 blah. And I like that, like, gaming is that. People love the sport of it, and the sport being the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, good gaming discourse is super cool. It's its own thing that's like separate from video games themselves. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm interested to hear what people think about games as much as I'm interested to play them, and I'm super interested to play them. I'm also interested to hear like what you think about a game, Jake, or you, Lucy, or Mr. Matty Plays and Donkey and all the reviewers that I watch. Right? There is like that's my sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not about winners and losers. It's just about like a really interesting discussion that is taking place that I am really invested in. So I think, we are lucky that we get to like contribute to that in the way that we do. And we are lucky that we get to like consume it as well, and I'm, really happy with the content creators that I follow, and really happy with like how they address this stuff. And I guess that's I guess one of the primary points of this whole conversation. Just like find those content creators that you're really happy to hear from about stuff. And, just try and spend more time with them, because that's probably going to make you happier than, I don't know, just focusing a lot on reviewers that you don't agree with, or people's perspective you don't agree with.
The hate watch, the hate listen.
Yeah, that's not really going to do you any good. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Who would you say is your favorite game reviewer?
Donkey.
Oh,
wait,
unironically.
Jake, who did you say?
I said, oh boy, I don't know. I like that you said Donkey with no hesitation.
100%. I always get in trouble for this.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't.
But like, I really believe that his sickness and his ability to like break down a game in just a few short minutes with his own extremely personal perspective. And yeah, he cherry picks for sure, but he's telling his story of the game. And like, I know exactly how Donkey feels about that game when it's done. Now, do I like, I fucking love Xenoblade, for example, and like Xenoblade, and he's on like every Xenoblade's fans kill list. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to not play Xenoblade because of Donkey, but I look at his review and I'm like, I know exactly what Donkey thinks about that. It's interesting. I think he's right in a lot of aspects. I think he's wrong in some others, whatever. But I really feel like he has just nailed that ability to just like condense his perspective of a game into a really short, punchy little video that is so super fun to watch every time. And I love it. So yeah, I think he's my personal favorite.
Lucy, who's yours?
Christian Donlin. Chris Donlin.
Who's that?
Used to be a Eurogamer. I think he's like freelance now. I just think he's a beautiful writer. I think he was on the features team for a long time, but every time he would kind of dip into, and I guess the stuff that he would write would typically not be reviews, but I think he's a wonderful, very emotive writer. And I think that's another thing that is very important when it comes to reviews. Like, his reviews would kind of make you feel something, even if it's something that you had no interaction with previously.
Totally agree.
So Donlin for sure. Really like you two, whatever. I don't know.
Question.
Yeah.
Besties.
How about you, Jake?
I love listening to the besties because
the besties, yeah, sure.
Yeah, they're funny.
4 of them. Yeah.
For me, so it's like I go to different people for different things.
Yes.
So for like for sweaty games, I always, if it's Mitchell at IGN, if he's doing the review, I'm like, yeah,
true,
all right.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
Especially back in the day when publishers were really like pushing some weird shit in terms of like microtransactions and stuff like that, Jim Sterling was always the go-to when I wanted to read a review that, to be honest, like I wanted to see a practice be eviscerated.
For sure.
Who else? Mr. Matty Plays. I know we mentioned him a lot, but when it's an RPG, man, I like, especially like a Western art, like I just love hearing him talk about it, break it down. I think he really excels. Like his Avowed review, a perfect example of like showing where his strength lies. Even people are going to dog on me, but there was a period of time where it was like Adam Sessler and people doing Revision 3. And on Revision 3, they were doing reviews. And Adam Sessler did a lot of like highbrow, waxy, poetic reviews. But sometimes I like that because it's different and it's interesting. It makes you think, even if you don't always agree with it.
One that stuck out for me. Yeah. The Bioshock Infinite review he did.
It's like I go for like what I'm in the mood for. And yeah, Scale Up, you're really good too. You're a little long-winded, but I think you're good.
No lies detected, man. No lies detected.
No. I think that I think you're one of the all-timers. Obviously, I think you've filled in a really good space, or really carved out a really good space for yourself. And I like your blend of writerly breakdown and good personality. Like you genuinely have a good voice for radio, like in the old-fashioned sense. Like
I've been told I had a good face for it. So that's the first time I've been told. So that's good. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. But I also right back at you as well in the sense that the before you buy stuff, there's a reason it's like the most watched review on YouTube every single time. You know, I think that you're able to walk a really fine line of, you know, your own personal opinion, but also leaving a lot of space to let other people come to their own conclusions about things. Like, you know, I think I am very much like, I think I'm really pushing a strong conclusion, being like, here's what I think, you know, and I think with you, it's kind of like you get that for sure. But I think you leave a lot of space in there for other people to be like, well, what do you think about this? You know, like here's a thing, you know, and just laying it out very plainly in a way that just lets people make up their own minds. And
I'll be the first to admit and like lean into like being wishy-washy. I like it. I don't
think it's wishy-washy. I don't think that's the right way to talk about it.
I like the roller coaster of how I tend to go through reviews and talking about games in terms of like, well, I like that, but I don't like that, but I like that. Does this make this better? Do I kind of forgive this because of this? And I love kind of talking through the feelings of that.
Yeah, I agree. I actually really enjoy that part of what you do. And then for me personally, I push through all of that and I'm like, no, I can't deliver any of that to the audience. I need to tell them what I think about things. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I really like that you do that. You know, I love that. So
how do you guys, because I mean, you both write traditional reviews. I have not done that since Persona 5, right? That was like the last big actual editorialized review that I wrote.
That's crazy though, that's what you went out on. You're like, the last Persona 5 here for a massive publication.
Yeah, I'm done.
Peace. I got on the they put me in the trailer. Like they put a quote in the trailer. And that for me, that was like, that's what I'm going out on.
Love a trailer quote. Love it.
That's still all I'm gunning for, man. That's it. Then I'm done. I've achieved everything.
You must have had one.
Nope.
Must have had one from no way.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh,
never.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe the outlet of Game Ranks, but never my specific words.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So.
But no, I mean, I remember writing that review, and like for a game like Persona, it felt like how I'm interested in. What's your process? Is this getting too navel-gazy? I am just genuinely interested in how you guys go through. Say Avowed. What does your note stock look like? Do you have a section for gameplay? Do you have a section for story? Or is it just complete thought dump based on what you've been experiencing, and then you take it and put it together into a more cohesive thing?
I'll shortcut that and say yes, like that. I have notes, I have like sections or whatever else, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the most important thing was like Roger Ebert, film critic, he said, and he got it from someone else. It wasn't even him, right? But he says like, when you're reviewing something, the most important question that you need to ask is, what happened to me while I was watching this thing, playing this thing, experiencing this thing?
My mom died.
Not what I'm talking about.
That bit. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening.
He's alive. His mother's alive and well, by the way. Like, I don't know why he's talking about his mother dying. But no, what it's talking about is like, you know, you need to observe what is occurring in you while you are experiencing something. And that is what I'm focused on more than anything else when I'm playing. And, you know, I'm with a gameplay system. I'm like, okay, cool. This progression system in Avowed isn't working. But like, what am I feeling while I'm doing this? Like, that's what I really focus on the most. So I can describe it in words, but that's the part that I fixate on and really drill down towards and understand. Because like when I can understand why I've got to that point, and that has been so useful to me when I've played games. I'm like, did I like that? And I really need to sit and think about it. And I'm like, yes, I did like that. But why though? Like why did I like that? I shouldn't like this. But if you can really drill down and get to that feeling and understand the root cause of it, I think that's when you can write a good review.
Well said. Yeah. My process is kind of, I have like a notes doc and I kind of just throw things in it where I'm like, ooh, I should mention something about this. Ooh, I should mention something about that. Sometimes I'll do little brief shorthand descriptions of a system that I think needs to be quickly explained to like make another point. And when I'm in the game, I'll be like, okay, yeah, I should probably explain it that way. So I throw that in. And then I just sit down and just kind of go. The difference is before you buy and then like additional ramblings I say about a game, whether it's on here or my channel. I usually put those out later. It's a lot of times it's essentially like before you buy its design, like and like the deadline and like the quick out, it's fresh reactions. The videos on my channel are usually like, I don't know, I'll like have a glass of wine and like sit down and like think of something stupid to say about a game, or like have a weird revelation where I'm like, that kind of reminded me of that. I'm going to say that. And I scribble down little things like that. So yeah, it's a lot of just scribbling down frantic random things on both sides. With the before you buys, sometimes I break them down where, and you'll notice it too. Like if I don't have too much to say about the game from like a deep standpoint, I spend a lot more time describing the systems and why I think they're interesting, what makes them work. If I feel way more strongly about a game in just a very interesting way from like the story or something like that, I spend more time talking about that. So I kind of just like lean into what interests me for that current game. Really. Yeah. This is the review podcast, straight up. Like this is the episode.
What was IGN used to have? What review? You guys were both on that one, right? Review crew.
Yeah, of course. We were on that. I was on
IGN.
that.
Yeah.
I was on the Cyberpunk. I was on the Cyberpunk episode.
I don't remember what I was on. That was during COVID. That was like nothing. I don't remember anything. I literally don't remember. I barely remember anything. It's like Tom Holland was in this weird movie where he was a drug addict. I watched it. Was he? Yeah, there was a lot of movies that came out that I watched, and then I was like, that happened?
Can I just say, segueing briefly, sorry, Lucy, you want to stay on that topic?
Oh, no, I did not. I was going to say, was that the one with Daisy Ridley? Or like Jennifer Lawrence? It was like two stars who got big, and then they held the movie for COVID.
That was like not Hell Let Loose. It had a title like that, though.
Hell Let Loose. Isn't that a game? There's a game, right?
You're damn right, that's a game.
Like some World War II shooter or some shit?
Yeah. Dad game, yeah.
That's right, the total dad game. But it was emails about it all the time.
Oh, you should play it. You should play it. Yeah, it's rough.
Okay.
It's rough, but it's got some like kind of old school harder core appeal.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, nice. Like you want to run across a field for an hour and then get shot in the face by somebody you didn't see.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
My segue was: did you guys see Timothée Chalamet's speech at the SAG at the actual awards, where he just gets up? Oh, you didn't see this? Oh, it's such a good speech. He gets up. He's like, he wins an award for like his performance as Bob Dylan, and he's like, oh, I know the classy thing to say would be like, you know, this doesn't really mean that much to me, and it's all about whatever. He's like, no, but the truth is, this was 5 years of my life. I worked my fucking ass off for this, and I'm inspired by the greats, and I want to be one of the greats. And he's like, basically,
like, keep working on that. Thank you.
This speech that unashamedly was just like, I want to try really hard and be one of the greats. And you know what? It's a fucking cool speech. I loved it. And everyone else loved it as well. It was very cool to see someone just being out there, just caring and just being like, no, I give a shit about this. You know what I mean?
If I ever got a reviewer award, I would go up on stage and say, I'm really tired. I'm washed. See you guys. This is my last one.
It's like, that was basically Kieran Culkin's speech when he received his award. Yeah, that's right.
So there's the whole thing. Like I really like the podcast, The Rest is Entertainment, where it's basically talking about, things happening in TV and movies and stuff. And they were talking about Timothée Chalamet's kind of his Oscars campaign, because I didn't realize just how political and how much work goes into an Oscar campaign. Like they literally hire
big time.
agencies to help. Yeah. And so one of the things that people were saying was like, Timothy's being a little too obvious that he wants the Oscar for this. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you devote years of your life to something.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
You are allowed to be proud of it and also hope that you get the recognition that you believe you deserve. And by all accounts, apparently that's a good movie and he's really good at it. So
have you seen it, Jake?
No, actually not yet.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it either.
I really, really I'm actually like a big Bob Dylan fan though.
Okay.
So I'm curious, but it's interesting how the movie, like how it, I don't want to go into it, but I think it's been interesting to see him go around and like promote it very personally and like go on weird things and just dive in. And he said publicly too, is that he like wants to continue like Bob Dylan awareness because like he's becoming an older musician and like younger people are, not going to know about him as much. So he's like using his platform for that. That's cool. That's why I talk about the Order 1886 all the time.
Absolutely. It's exactly the same thing. Bob Dylan and Order 1886. Yeah. They're equally
people are going to forget
significant to the culture.
People.
Highway 1866 revisited.
Oh my God! Okay, that's it.
Right. Genuine one.
We gotta cut to commercial after that. Let's go. All right, time to hear from this video sponsor, Raycons. We know them.
Yes, sir.
We love them. We've been friends with Raycon for years, using their stuff. We were using them in the before times when they had the older models of the everyday earbuds, but now they have been refreshed with a new model. Came out last year, and they are fantastic. Tell them why, Jake.
They are completely redesigned. They fit in your ear very nicely. Can I do it over my... Yeah, they fit in your ears. They don't fall out. They have active noise cancellation, which is a great feature, and usually one you have to pay out the ass for from one of the larger name brands. So you get that. You get water resistance. You get multi-point connectivity, which is really nice. You share with somebody. You're connected to multiple things. Like there's a lot to take advantage of here. Plus the carrying case itself charges nice and quick, fits right in your pocket.
It's nice and small as well.
Yeah.
The earbuds I've had definitely have much larger carry cases, and this one is like nice and compact. Plus you can also buy, and I have the box for it here because it's empty because I actually am using this, but this is like a little carry case for your carry case. Oh, yeah. It's a cover for your carry case, basically. That sort of just gives it a bit of color, a flair.
Little expression,
I use the yellow one just purely because it's easier to find around my house.
Yeah,
right. When I leave them laying around, rather than little black stuff, which is So they're really great. Set of earbuds. I've also bought them as gifts for many people. I have bought them for example, my mother-in-law, who really loved to just listen to her shit loud on her phone while we're in the house. And now she doesn't do that anymore because she wears the Raycons and she can just listen to it to herself. So everybody is a winner in that situation. I think, certainly some of the older people in our lives, they don't have earbuds and they don't really care about like getting $600 earbuds or whatever. They just want stuff that works well and is reliable. Raycons are perfect for that. I have a few pairs, one that I keep in my gym bag so that I never accidentally leave without it. One that I just keep laying around the home. They're very solid. Really do recommend them. So they've been very good to me over the years. And if you'd like to get them for yourself, we've got a special deal going, don't we, Luce?
Yes, if you go to buyraycon.com/friends, you get 20% off the best-selling everyday earbuds. So thank you again to Raycon for sponsoring this episode. That's buyraycon.com/friends. All right, all that talk of reviews out of the way. What has everyone been playing? It's also Steam Next Fest. There's a bunch of demos and stuff that I know I haven't gotten around to, but my wish list has grown exponentially. Ralph, what you been up to?
So I just finished Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, 105 hours.
Gamer.
I think it's honest to goodness. It's incredible. It's incredible. I think it is one of the best RPGs, full stop. I think it's just a remarkable experience. It is so much better than the first. in ways that are difficult to describe because it's the same, but it's just 10x'd each of those components where it sort of like crosses a threshold to become something so much more than the sum of its parts. Because I guess part of that is also to do with the fact that it's not so busted. Because the first one you could really see what they were
launch,
going
it was
for.
really rough too.
Yeah, but at launch it was fucking busted. So it was kind of held back by that, but also the limitations in their budget and presentation, all sorts of stuff. But all of those constraints are lifted here. They had so much more money. They had the same amount of time, but they had an existing engine and existing assets they could work with, and they knew what they were doing. And it just what they've created here is unbelievable. And I really think that it's going to take time for people to fully grasp this and understand this, and like not in the sense that what I mean is this is 105 hours and it's been out for a small amount of time. It's a very niche game that a lot of people aren't going to come to. But when they do get there, they're going to be like, fuck me, what the hell, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to have, I think it's like a benchmark level game. Like if for me personally, like when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, I'm not measuring it against Skyrim at this point. I'm measuring it against Kingdom Come 2. Do you know what I mean? Like that, I think it's the best Bethesda style game since Skyrim. And I just think that, you know, yeah, dude, it's so good. It's just so good.
But in
its saying credit, that, because you guys both said that I wouldn't like it.
I still maybe think that, knowing the kind of games that I know you put hours into, I don't know that you'll put hours into this one, you know, because it is still very arduous, and it is like, you know, you really do need to be willing to sit there through lots of, you know, cutscenes about, you know, bohemian nobles arguing about this or that, and you might like that.
No. Sure. Medieval history is my special interest at the moment.
Okay, so. Well, I mean, in that context, absolutely, this might float your boat. I guess it's just that you've never mentioned a game like this that you've really loved. Like, have you really loved Bethesda games in the past? Are you like all about Skyrim or Oblivion, or you were into those like big
Skyrim?
Time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time
cool.
Skyrim.
Yeah,
what if Skyrim was hard and annoying?
Yes, that's exactly right.
And I mean,
okay, but I tell you what my actual pitch for. I tell you what my actual pitch for this is. You know what? Now I take it all back. I tell you why. Okay, here, listen to this. My actual pitch for this is that this is Yakuza for non-weebs. Okay, right? Like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
In the first place?
No, I totally agree with you. I take everything back. I was wrong. This game has this really emotive core like storyline that's super serious and whatever else and emotionally wrought. But then around it is this cast of fucking insane characters and weird side quests and shenanigans that you're getting up to all the time. And
a lot of the times, one of those weird, crazy freaks will then just say a sweet, profound line at the end of a quest where you go, damn.
Oh, shit. Absolutely. So,
and it's
so
for that.
I actually do believe this is hugely analogous to what Yakuza provides in that regard.
Okay.
It's an open world game that is very emotionally wrought, centered on a few main characters, but with a huge number of crazy side characters that you go on weird adventures with. And it's meant to be funny and moving and ridiculous and impossible but just very full of heart. And so maybe you will like this, actually. Maybe I was completely wrong. Right. But I would say the other thing that really defines it is just its scale is so massive. It's huge. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And I said this in my review. It's massive, this game. As I said, 105 hours. I reckon there's probably like 20 to 30 hours of side content that I didn't do. The number of game systems, the number of NPCs, the number of characters is massive. Okay. But it's not the scale that you feel while you're playing it. It's actually the intimacy of it all. Like, it's actually the fine touch that the developers have put onto every single last thing. Nothing is copy and pasted. Nothing is just kind of like, just whack it in there. It just feels so handcrafted the whole way through. In the same way that I think something like, you know, Red Dead feels handcrafted. You know, you can't ever accuse any aspect of Red Dead of being like, you know, just sort of phoned in or whatever. Like, and I'm not saying this is as good as Red Dead. Don't get me wrong. There's a difference, for sure. But the point stands. It's like there's a group of people who worked really hard, 200 people who worked really hard on this for a bunch of years, and they delivered something so expansive, but they never let the scale be the objective. They let the intimacy and the finer details be the goal, right? And they just happen to make a lot of things along the way, you know? And that is when I realized that, I realized I was playing something very special, because very few games can do both of those things at the same time. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I love that game. Incredible, for sure. But, even then it had lots of surprises packed into it, right? But even then, with some of its open world designy stuff and its overall structure and whatever, there were some elements where you're like, hey, I didn't really need this. And this one, though, it's kind of like, nah, everything just feels essential, even though it's so massive,
And the story is really good. And I think a lot of that is the characters. I love these characters. There's so many different angles to them. Hans, Godwin, they have so many interesting things to them. And then Henry as a main character.
Yes.
I think performance-wise especially, even though he is the vessel and you can make decisions, be an asshole, be great, the performance behind it, the voice actor just really is endearing. And you just want to be him, and you want to be in this world. It's cool.
He's actually a really great case for that whole you want the silent protagonist in games is something I struggle with. It's so hit and miss for me. Sometimes it's the right choice, but a lot of the time, certainly in a game like this, I would much prefer my protagonist to voice the words or the sentiment that I select in the dialogue options. And because I want to hear their specific spin on it. I want to hear how Geralt or Shepard phrases the dick option that I choose, or the nice guy option. And I think Henry's writing really captures that same thing, where you just want to hear what he has to say when you select the dialogue option. Right. But the other parallel to Red Dead, because I actually interviewed the game's community manager, and he says that a major point of inspiration for this game was Red Dead Redemption 2. You could 100% feel it in terms of its immersion and game systems and whatever else. But what he alluded to was the campfire camaraderie of this group of outcasts. This has that. Everyone that you're pals with, they're a fuck up or a mercenary, or cutthroat, a drunk, a clergyman who has been kicked out of the clergy. Well, everyone's got these stories of them just sort of flunking out in some aspect of life, but they all come together to do something. And seeing all of their imperfections and being around them, but still coming to appreciate them, that is a very special trick that they managed to pull off. And they really nail it. And I was very sad to say goodbye to that cast by the end. And it's a massive cast as well, by the way, which the cast is 12 plus people are the core cast. That's another thing that's very hard to pull off. That's an ensemble cast.
Yeah, that's
but
big.
They still managed to make every one of them feel so unique and so essential to every conversation, So a remarkable game. You know what? This is a game of the year contender. I know GTA 6 is coming along.
I agree.
And I know everyone's going to be like, oh, it's going to be GTA 6. Maybe. It probably will be. Okay? It probably will be GTA 6. But we don't know. We haven't played it yet. But I'll tell you this now. This game is going to be a game of the year contender. And it's in any other year, if GTA 6 weren't arriving, this would provide some extraordinarily stiff competition for that number one spot, because I genuinely believe it's that good.
It definitely, and I think I brought this up the last time we talked about it, but I can't help but bring up Baldur's Gate 3, just in terms of the sense of how did this all come together? Almost like being in awe of the be like, how do they account for everything? How is there this much thing crammed in this thing?
Yeah.
It's so good for that. And then the slow progression, the slow build of empowerment, and when it finally clicks, and when you do finally, the first game had this too, to its credit, but when it clicks and you finally feel like a badass,
yes,
it is such a good natural gameplay feeling.
I totally agree with that.
And you approach the world differently, in conversation, in tactics. It's crazy.
And that curve is so masterful, because it happens at exactly the right moment where you'd need it to happen, because it's such a long game, but you only get to that point on the power curve at I'm going to say 60 to 70 hours. You know what I mean? Right. And so before that time, it's still hard. It's still fucking hard to do things in this game. But when you get to 60 to 70 hours, you don't want it to be as hard, but that's fine, because at that point, it's no longer that hard. You've crossed the threshold where you're now, your speech is leveled up enough. Your crafting's strong enough. Your weapon skills are strong enough, where stuff becomes really easy, and you can kind of canter through most of the game's challenges and focus on concluding this epic saga. So again, even that difficulty curve is so masterfully on point. It really is.
The amount of practice it took for me to hit anyone with the gun.
Oh God, bro, that gun.
Dude, most of the time I light the gun and I walk right up to a guy and I just light it.
Yeah. It still doesn't work. You still miss. Yeah. Yeah, true.
Does it work on Steam Deck?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Absolutely.
My flight back has been...
I mean, that's be a great flight game, to be honest with you, because it's a game you can play at your own pace. You know, it's very chill. The best feeling that this game gives you, though, is when you just log in and the loading screen's up and you're looking around, you're like, so what's up today? What am I doing today? Like that's this feeling that you don't ever get in any other game, where it's like the world is out there waiting for you. What do I want to do? What do I feel like? What adventures await me as I get on my horse and ride into some new village? It's almost like a cowboy procedural where you ride into a new village. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what's going to happen. You're going to go on some new adventure, but this sense of discovery and adventure awaits you every time you step into it. And I love that feeling every time I load it in. It was very special.
I really like the sense of familiarity you get with the regions as well.
Yes.
Like it was kind of like for me, like, I don't know, like getting to know Grove Street in San Andreas, where you do all the side objectives around there and you can essentially drive home to the cul-de-sac by feel.
Yep.
In here, it's like the character version of that, where I love the situations where the game kind of like funnels you into a handcrafted situation, like without spoiling anything, early things like the wedding scene, or when you're locked in the castle, essentially.
Oh man, that was a sequence. That
was fucked. That
was like, oh, I don't know about this.
I had to go back like an hour and like beef up a couple of skills and redo that whole thing. But still, you get to those sequences, a lot of sequences like that, and you're rewarded for how much time you've kind of spent getting to know people and doing all these side objectives, because you see them there and you can engage with them. And it's like, oh, you're here. And I don't know, it's just a nice feeling. It feels like a good, well-constructed stage of players.
And I think, certainly not, like the Avowed discourse is challenging, as we just discussed in great detail. But one of the challenges that I had with Avowed was that like you could make decisions in that game for sure, but you never really felt it. Like you're like, you'll decide that this group of people will die, but you never really felt that, because it just kind of like happened off screen, and then you were told about it in another conversation with an NPC who's mad at you for 5 minutes, and then they forget about it in the next conversation, right? So, but this is not just Avowed. A lot of games will try and do this sort of stuff. But my point,
the illusion of choice,
But again, that's not quite it. That's not, because the illusion of choice makes it feel like you're actually not making a choice when you are, like kind of a Mass Effect 3 ending situation thing or whatever. Whereas this is like you do make choices, but it's about there has to be steps along the way as the consequences of that choice unfold, and you need to see and feel them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas in Kingdom Come, dude, you feel every single thing. Every minor decision you make, you feel that choice. You see it and you talk about it and you can experience it firsthand. You participate in the cutscene where the events of your decision take place. All of that. There's no choice here that feels like it is resolved off screen for you. You know, it all feels so real.
And a really good balance of the decision where it's like the writing and the characters, and you're like, well, I want to do that, or I want to save that person, but also squaring it up with the gameplay side and having some of that self-preservation, where there are points in the game where you're like, I want to fuck these guys up. There are other parts in the game where you're like, this is not going to be good for me. I need to find a solution here. I need to talk my way out of this.
Absolutely.
That stuff's great.
Totally agree.
Okay.
So anyway, it's an incredible game. And
interested by it now. I think you've sold me.
Well, I hope you give it a shot. I hope everyone gives it a shot. And the story behind the game as well is incredible. We're talking 200 people. It was a Kickstarter back in the day. And no one believed in them.
I forgot about that.
No one believed in them. They couldn't get any money, and they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And they finally managed to cobble it together. And then one came out, and it was very janky, middling reviews, but still went on to sell 8 million units.
Found an audience.
This team doubled down, and now they've delivered one of the great RPG experiences of our time. I mean, that's the truth. And that's
Warhorse. The Warhorse is the people to watch.
Oh man, sure. I mean, for real though, like honestly, yeah, like absolutely. Whatever they do now. And the other thing I'll say about this is, if this game was actually with magic and swords and whatever else, this game would sell 20 million units. I'm not even joking. Like, if these guys actually, and I'm not saying it should be, I'm glad that it's not. I'm glad they're just sticking to their guns and doing their thing. But my point is, the setting of this game is gonna push a lot of people away, because they're gonna think, that's boring or whatever else. But like, if you took the same game systems and the same attention to detail and the same philosophy that underpins the making of this game, and then you applied that to Elder Scrolls or whatever, that would sell 20 million units. I'm not even joking, because it's that level of quality. And when people have that kind of attraction, it would go gangbusters. But I think the developers already teased they want to make Key City 3, and I can see that it does have a trilogy feel to it.
Trilogy would be incredible. It would be so good if they really do that.
Yeah,
I love a good trilogy.
And then if they were then to try to make a fantasy game with this skill set, oh my God, the amount of money these people would make would be obscene, for real. So yeah. Anyway, that's me.
Yeah. Wait, I thought you said
I did play something else, but I talked a lot then. So let's talk about something else.
Okay, well, yeah. Jake, what about you?
Monster Hunter Wilds.
Are you a Monster Hunter boy?
I'm a casual Monster Hunter person. I tried the 3DS ones and like stuff like that, bounced off of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the friends that were like just all day playing them, and I was like, let me try. Didn't. But Monster Hunter World, I really, really enjoyed. I really liked it. And then I went on to cover Rise for Game Ranks as well. And so now here we are with Wilds, and I like it. It's cool. I think the open world is nice because it's just structurally very cool to not have to and like loading screen into a thing. Like you're just out there. You have a little bit more freedom. You can drop camps, and like the camp will be, if you faint, you get dumped back to that. And you can the camps also have customization. There's a lot of customization here that I really like. The character creator is awesome. I made my guy look like Galahad from Order 1886. That's like a recurring theme here. But like the really good character creator, the Palico customization, which the games have had, the customization of the mount, the Sacred, is really good, and just how the mount works is really cool. How it navigates through the world. It can jump. So essentially, you hop on this like bird raptor thing, and it can store extra items for you. It can auto follow, so it kind of just will follow a monster or follow a quest objective. And yeah, it's really cool that it can navigate parts of the environment. Like it can kind of like jump through shortcuts where you couldn't get on foot. So it has all these uses, especially just strafing around a monster. Like you can, like if you get knocked by a monster, you can whistle and the thing will scoop you up and kind of whisk you away and strafe around the battle, which is cool. Cool. So you can sharpen your blade while you're doing that. And you can also switch weapons, which I like. So you can bring a second weapon with you, where I kind of always in Monster Hunter would like find my thing and stick with it. This made me want to, experiment a little more. So that's cool. Also, the creature designs are really weird. They're really like outside the box. They're really thinking differently. There's not just like, oh, it's a T-Rex. There's a lot more interesting stuff to this, and also how they work within the worlds or the biomes here. The biomes all kind of have their own little story, and they change. There's weather patterns. And there's there's a lot of story. Like
I've heard that. Yeah.
I was surprised how much story there is. It's fine. It's kind of like, quirky. It's got some quirky characters. It's enjoyable enough. But also the lady who forges your weapons is super hot. I love her. But
nice.
But there's a lot of like interesting little quality of life improvements, and almost, I guess some people would say, streamlining, where so my thing is I found it really, really easy. I know you can argue, and I think it was more with Rise too, like the Monster Hunter campaign is easy, and it just kind of explains the game to you, and then you get to the end game, and that's where the real fun begins. But getting into Monster Hunter really with World, that campaign kind of kicked my ass, and it just kind of threw you in, and it's like, good luck. This is Monster Hunter. Figure it out. And I did, and I learned to love it. But it was a lengthy and challenging campaign. So here I was dog walking a lot of enemies. It was very easy.
That's a bummer, because I had the same complaint about Rise, where I forget what it's called now, but in Rise there was a mechanic where you could like grapple onto like a bug or something. What was that called?
Oh yeah, the bug. Sure,
grapple bug.
I would spam that. Sure,
and that made the game way easier because you could basically like dodge out the way after you get knocked over, so there's no follow-up attack from enemies, and you could maintain so much more pressure on them, and it made the game way easier. And I was like, okay, I still like this, but I really miss the challenge that worlds provide.
Yeah.
And to hear that this is going in that direction of being even easier, I'm like, damn, man, because World was like incredible. The difficulty curve was so on point. Yeah, you're right. Totally kicked our asses during that campaign experience. If you weren't a veteran hunter, which I certainly wasn't.
No, that's the thing. I say that as somebody who like, I will fiddle around in the end game, but I'm mostly just here for the journey, and like I'm good, and that's it. So I don't know. There's even pacing things as well, like having this like relentless, always there, really accurate mount that will auto follow, kind of speeds up the pacing of the hunts. Which on the one hand is cool because when you wound like a big monster and it starts running away, you whistle, you hop on your thing, you're running after it, like ready to track it down. But there's less of that. Like I feel like in World, especially, like you would wound the thing enough and it would walk away, and you'd be like, oh, okay, god damn it.
Yes,
I need
exactly.
Let me heal up, let me antidote, let me sharpen my blade and start trying to figure out where this idiot went. Now, like you can do all that stuff on your mount while you're on your way there, and you get there very quickly. So it's paced a lot quicker. But there's cool stuff, and I'm curious to see how the hardcore fans take this stuff, like into the end game and stuff. You can, while you're fighting an enemy, there's like a focus system now, so you can essentially like not ADS, but you hold a trigger and you can kind of control the camera, and there's like a reticle, so you can kind of aim your attacks a little better. It's still not perfect. Like you're going to whiff stuff, especially like if you're playing with a greatsword, like you're still going to just like big swing and a miss, but it helps you kind of line things up a little bit. And enemies will get wounded. And when you're in focus mode, you can see where these wound markers are, and you can hit those for bonuses. And then, eventually, like if you want to like tear their tail off to make a different hat or pair of pants, stuff like that. And it's just a really cool system where if you get by that wound and you hit it, it's very satisfying because there's a special animation and kind of mechanic almost, and it depends on what weapon type you're using. So if you hit the focus attack to like hit at that wound with a greatsword, it's just this big satisfying, like you literally take the sword and you run down the line of the creature, and it's so cool, and the numbers go up. It's great. The daggers, you'll like jump on top of them and flip them, but like you can choose to slam up or slam down. Like that stuff is really, really cool. It also just makes it easier because you're just like wrecking the shit out of these monsters. So it's like it's a satisfying mechanic, but it's another tool that makes it like you have a lot you can do with these monsters, and it makes like you're using the environment. You are grappling hooking up real quick to avoid danger. You're pulling down rocks on these monsters. You're hitting bugs in the field that zap them. You're setting your traps. Like you have so many tools and so many options. Now you have this new focus system. It's a lot, and it's cool to like figure it all out and when it's appropriate. But yeah, I've had a pretty easy time getting through the campaign. But I'm curious to see how the hardcore people take it. That's really it.
Too.
I also play solo. Like I'm a solo. Like I get the appeal of playing with friends, but I just kind of do my thing, work my way through these games.
I agree. Makes that playing solo against a monster is a totally different experience. It's just you just need to play so differently, and I think that's definitely how I enjoy it for sure.
But I definitely still like if you're a Monster Hunter person. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, are you gonna get into the end game? Do you think, or is it you're done? Like now that
no, I'm gonna dabble definitely. Probably like in between other games I'm working on for review. But it's also I forgot to mention too. So you can shoot up a flare to start like a random matchmake where people can jump in and start helping you during a hunt, like in the environment. But you can also do it, and if nobody comes, it summons AI NPC helpers. So it's kind of like the Elden Ring thing where like you just all of a sudden you have these badasses come that like really will help for a second and like really draw aggro away from you. So you have them, and then you have your Palico also like drawing some aggro and talking shit if you set them to do that. So you have a lot of, I love the Palico thing. Like I really do. I like a lot about Monster Hunter, just how, you know what? there's something about Monster Hunter that like you can't get anywhere else, and it's everything you explain about it. Doesn't make any, like if you explain it to like, I don't know, your bus driver, there's always that thing where like someone's like, what are you talking? Or the lady at the store, you explain to her, okay, so it's this world, it's a very diverse world. Like, are you kind of like a knight? No. Are you kind of like a native person? No. Are you like a, you don't even know what kind of thing you are. You have a big sword. You tackle these monsters. Sometimes they're dinosaurs. Sometimes they're weird bugs. Doesn't matter. You have a cat friend. That cat speaks English now. It didn't always. Now it does. It helps you in fights. You kill these animals and you make clothing out of them. But then the games also push this like message of positive ecosystem and like nature. And it's just so distinctly bizarre. And it's like, for me, it's like you can only get those types of things in video games. And I still like the Monster Hunter appeal, I think will always be there. I think whether or not this one lands with hardcore fans, I still think it's special. It's still distinct, really.
Yeah, I really had big dreams to play it like before launch. And now I don't know when I'm going to have the time to play it because there's lots of stuff coming up in March, but I'd definitely like to slot in. I'd like to sit down with it a little bit for sure, just at least get a couple of hours in because I really am very excited for it.
Yeah, you were the one who kind of got me excited.
Dude, I love Worlds is incredible. It's an incredible video game. And so... Yeah, I think later, after March, things calm down a little bit, things chill out a bit. So I might circle back to it then. But yeah, March is already fully packed, unfortunately. So yeah.
No, the other game I talked about, I talked a lot. So Lucy, what do you want?
There's a couple of Next Fest demos I want to shout out. So Duck Detective was a game that I loved last year.
This is a sequel, right?
Sequel where he goes glamping. Nice. It's very fun. There's an hour-long demo available. It's more of the same, brackets positive. Like it's still funny, cute. The logic puzzles and deductions are very interesting and well thought out. You still have that aha moment. I'm a genius. And I'm excited to see the rest of the mystery. So shout out to that one. The other one I really enjoyed was Is This Seat Taken? It is a puzzle game where it's various vehicles and you have a few people who want to get on, but they have very specific requirements on where they want to sit. And so someone will say, oh, I want to sit next to this person. Someone else will say, I want to sit by the window. Someone else will be wearing too much cologne. And someone will be like, well, I want to, but I don't want to be sat next to anyone with a strong smell. And so it's basically like a
Does Rosa Parks show up?
People in. No.
That would have been cool.
Not.
Okay. It's a good opportunity.
It's set in Barcelona. So
she could,
not her native territory. You never know. But no,
it's just a really nice puzzle game. And in the demo's there's quite a lot in there. And if you get all the stars, you unlock like a harder level, like a secret level. My one issue with it is that it kind of gives you 5 levels or so in a row. And if you biff one thing, you have to redo all of the levels to get all the stars. And there's no way to just restart one puzzle. So that would be my feedback for that.
Okay.
But I really enjoy it. The main game I've been playing now, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Hell yeah.
A title that tells you everything about that game. But it's great. I'm a big Yakuza fan, Like a Dragon fan. And
can I ask you a question right off the bat?
Yeah.
How much will this fill the Assassin's Creed Black Flag void? Is it good enough for me to scratch that itch in terms of pirate ship stuff? Is the pirate ship stuff simple or is it?
It's pretty simple. So, of the game, it is Goro Majima, who is kind of a protagonist / sometimes antagonist / random guy who just follows you around in the Yakuza games. Oh no, he's 60 now and he is he's still so hot. Like it's ridiculous. They've made him so attractive. Nice. Anyway.
It's the pirate hat.
No, he's randomly topless and he's just anyway. Check out AO3 for more of that. And so he washes up ashore on a random island, a small island with a small community, and he has amnesia. And so obviously the first thing he does is decide to kind of sort of kidnap. Sorry, my camera gave me a little thumbs up. Don't know if that'll appear on the recording. So he kind of like adopts / steals a child and promises to take him off the island and show him the way. And then he decides to become a pirate captain, and within 24 hours he has a ship and a crew, and he just takes to the seas.
But it's in modern day, right?
Yeah,
like it's
so
just
it's
like there's just
and it's a follow-up. It's a follow-up to Infinite Wealth. So in Infinite Wealth, there was this essentially religious cult that had this island where they were basically Yakuza who were retiring because, you know, throughout the Yakuza games, like there's always been this like, talk about dissolution of the Yakuza, and it's a place for retired Yakuza to go and to kind of make their way up, to kind of atone for their sins, I guess, and give back to community. They go to this island that's run by this religious cult, and they deal with the world's nuclear waste.
Okay.
So that happened. That is very much a part of the storyline in Pirate Yakuza. But yeah, it's basically Majima, and it's a really, really fun story. Like, the thing that I love about Yakuza is that it will oscillate between being so earnest, so heartfelt, this really beautiful drama, this story of, you know, family, crime, you know, being betraying, you know, but at the same time, like, wrestling with being a decent person, but committing these horrible crimes and doing awful things, and honor. And then it will go to just the most random, funny, laugh out loud moments. And the way that it just walks that line is so special. And I think this is the same with Pirate Yakuza. However, I will say it's the RGG are kind of the masters of the asset flip. They're, you know, this the whole all of Hawaii from Infinite Wealth is in there.
Yeah,
same places. A lot of the same systems, but they've been slightly retooled a little bit or kind of softened. So, for example, the system where you say hello to people and become friends with them, like that social network, that's all in there. They don't have... but I guess the big new system is the pirate battles. And to your question, Jake, is it as good as Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag? No. I would say it's pretty serviceable. It is. I wouldn't call the battles, the random battles on the ocean epic, but you do go to a place called Madlantis, which is where all the pirates...
Madlantis.
That sounds like something you made up. That's great.
So it's where all of the pirates kind of go. It's their Tortuga, I guess. And there is a place called the Colosseum, and you have to meet these certain checks, like a certain number of people on your crew or whatever, to join in these big battles. And then at the end you get to board, and, you know, it's more of a spectacle, I guess. But I guess overall, I think, is it fun for your first Yakuza game? I will always tell people, you know, play Zero, play Like a Dragon, play Infinite Wealth. Like, really have to experience Kiryu on Ichiban. But Goro Majima, it's weird because he has amnesia, and there are some, like, he's the mad dog, he's I don't know, there's some parts of him where it was like I could imagine Kiryu saying that, like, ultimately deep down he's a good guy. He's just kind of a bit wild and loose, but I think he's a really good vehicle for how wacky this goes and how much they just lean into. There are so many puns for a start, like so many pirate puns. The localization team at RGG crush it. The other thing is the opening, like the title card moment, is a full song and dance routine. Like, it is a full, like, they're on the ship and they just have this big song, which of course you can later sing at karaoke, because karaoke is of course a part of it. So I mean, cool. I've heard people say, I know, like Ed on your team, Ralph, you know, like, is it as hard hitting as a typical story? No, it's not. It's a really fun side quest. It's like someone at the coffee machine at RGG just went, what if Majima was a pirate? And then someone else looks up from their coffee and goes, you son of a bitch, I'm in. Let's make that game.
Sure.
And so
cool.
it's a fun one. It's not as long. I'm having a really good time with it. I've been taking a lot of screenshots of just some of the really random shit. Like I tweeted out, I posted on Blue Sky rather, where it's like this guy who just goes, I'm Captain. And it's just these moments of pure ridiculousness that I love. So I would recommend it. And yeah, it's also Next Fest, and I'm downloading a bunch of demos. So if anyone has any that they really enjoyed, Blueprints.
Ed was talking to me about Blueprints, saying it's like the best shit he's played in a long time. So he's super into it. I've heard nothing but good buzz. I've seen lots of other chatter as well. Blueprints apparently is definitely one to watch. It's one of those kind of like indie game of the year nominees in the making sort of thing. So yeah,
man, there's so much. I wish there's so many things.
There's so many games. Anyway, you guys been playing anything else?
The other thing I'll shout out is Jump Ship, which I played recently. It's basically, imagine you're on a spaceship. It's a co-op 4-player game, and you all need to pilot this thing together in your own, contributing to in your own way, right? So someone is going to be steering the ship, and someone else is going to be making sure that the jump drive has power, and you need to like reorganize these cubes on the wall in the right configuration to give it power, because that's the circuit board. You know, fires will break out when you get attacked by other ships, and you need to run around with a fire extinguisher. You need to make sure that the ship is properly fueled. There's all that sort of shit. The best part, though, is that you can actually leave the ship at any time and start floating around in space. And there's this grapple hook that you can use to get back to your own ship, but also grapple onto enemy ships that are like circling around you. And you can like board enemy ships with this fucking grapple. And then
you can get crazy like Battlefield basically and do crazy shit.
100%. It is like Battlefield co-op, 4-player co-op spaceship Battlefield game. And then there's also these missions where you actually do land somewhere and need to complete an objective. Like, so it's not just the space combat stuff and the space maintenance stuff. Like you dock at this big frigate and you need to hop out with guns and shotguns and rocket launchers, whatever. You need to like get into this base and fight all these robots to like steal this cargo and then bring it back to your ship, and it all goes crazy. It's a really good time. You know who makes it? The lead of the studio is a co-founder of Hazelight Studios. Joseph Fares thing.
Whoa.
Yep. And so we left that
people together and how to make cooperative play creative.
Totally. Yep. So I played like an hour and a half of it recently with the developers in Austin as well, and we had a really good time. Sorry.
What's the vibe? Is it like serious sci-fi?
No. Actually, you know what? It's not like super serious because it's got a lot of goofy mechanics, and you're obviously just running around like crazy people yelling at each other.
Yeah.
But the aesthetic is pretty serious. It's not cartoony, I'll say that. Like it's going for a more realistic aesthetic. The weapon mechanics are surprisingly excellent. Like I was like, whoa,
really?
It feels good to shoot this gun, man. So I don't know. I really liked it. And apparently they're launching early access later this year. I had a really fantastic time with it. And I could definitely see myself, dropping at least a few hours into it with some friends. Great looking.
It kind of reminds me of like, I feel like it has a potential. Do you remember Galaxy Quest? The movie, the comedy?
Yes.
Oh, that comedy. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was like the Star Trek comedy. Like, I feel like it's like has a potential for that. Like a bunch of like incompetent people running around a ship yelling at each other.
Exactly right. It's going to make for some good streaming moments. It's going to make for some good time with your friends. It definitely ticked all the boxes for me where I was like, okay, I can see this has a future in some way, shape or form, So, Jump Ship. Really recommend checking it out. It was a good time for sure.
Speaking of Jump Ship, Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness.
That segue was cool.
What's up with that?
So
I've been playing that.
So they put out a couple months back, Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remaster collection was released, and now just last week, Tomb Raider 4, 5, 6 remaster classic collection thing released. And in that 4, 5, 6 is Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, which is an underrated, weird, messed up game. Like even when it came out, it was like clearly rushed, but it marked a very different thing for Tomb Raider. It was like a darker story. It had a story. It had like all these like little optional things. It had like a very light RPG mechanics. but it was all just built on that classic Tomb Raider framework where you're walking around with tank controls, doing very, very tight jumps, like trying to be extremely accurate. And it's still really cool, actually. I'm about halfway through it, and it's just a good remaster. They did a good job trying to update the modern controls, but like my sensibility doesn't really like vibe with it. So I'm playing with the classic controls because the games just require like a shocking amount of accuracy. If you've never played an original Tomb Raider game, it's like you are a gymnast. You have to like, okay, back up 2 steps to the left, line up. Okay, here's the approach, hit jump, hit grab at the right time.
Oh man,
you know, it's
I
very
hated that game so much. I hated.
Oh really?
Controls.
Oh,
I hated them.
I love them.
Absolutely hated them.
I was also a little pervert. That was my problem.
Polygonal boobs.
But Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness has like some production value. It has like an air of mystery to it. It's got like some cinematic music, cool vibes. The whole first part of the game, you're walking around like Paris at like 6 o'clock in the morning when like no, like it's like a very like dreamy, like foggy streets. And you're just walking around, like asking people questions, like wearing, like trying to find the crime lord and stuff. It's so bizarre for a Tomb Raider game, but it really works. It's really cool. And I've been enjoying that little bit. I needed like a little dose of nostalgia and yeah, it's been good. The whole collection 4, 5, and 6, they are strong games. But you got to kind of know what you're getting into with old Tomb Raider.
You think they are strong games, really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the consensus on that era of the Tomb Raider games.
No,
you know what
I mean,
what I'm
no,
hearing
it's
on the
cool.
streets.
No, it's cool that you get like young Lara. You get like a little like Lara origins in, I think 5.
This was really
4
just
is in Egypt. It's like all in Egypt, I believe.
Yeah,
and that was cool. Good puzzles. Yeah,
this is kind of this like played out era where everyone's like, all right, you're still doing some stuff here.
Oh, they made too many of them. Definitely.
Correct. Yeah,
definitely.
So, yeah, well, fair enough.
But Angel of Darkness is cool. I don't recommend it.
God bless the old games that we played and loved, but we can't recommend today. God bless them.
Yeah, they fixed some things. There were parts of that game that were just like broken back in the day. So good on them.
Good. Well, what you guys been doing there isn't gaming.
I saw the Captain America movie. I watched. Not good. Just as I said, very forgettable, very uninteresting. Don't recommend checking it out. I have finally started watching Severance. I don't know if I talked about this last episode, but
you did a little bit. How far in are you?
Okay, so now I'm up to episode 3 of season 2, which has the goats in it, and I was like, I don't know about this now. I'm like, I feel like this. I hope this show doesn't get like high in its own supply, which is something that I really hate. That's what I hate when shows do that, where it's just like, we've got a thing, let's lean into the quirk. And you're like, well, the cool part about this is that you didn't lean into the quirk. It was just there under the surface. But then I watched episode 3 and I'm like, oh, we're just going all in on the quirk now, aren't we? So I don't know. I'm cautious of that. But look, season 1, masterful, unbelievable, so good, flawless, up there with like Westworld season 1, just like, beautifully constructed, tight. Oh, so good. So if season 2 bombs, I'm going to be really, really bummed out. Remember Ted Lasso? Do you guys ever watch Ted Lasso?
Yeah. No. So this is my fear, is because I think Apple has a really big problem. Ted Lasso, Bad Sisters, Silo, all of these shows, and like there are things like Foundation,
Mythic Quest,
For Mankind.
Oh my god,
Mythic Quest.
So
there are some shows that have managed to stay really good, but like all the shows that I like on Apple really have season 2 problems, and so now I'm nervous about Severance because I also feel that some of it is a bit high in its own supply, but then it'll have a moment at the end of the episode, and I'm an episode or 2 behind, where I'm like, again, but at the same time, it's like every episode kind of starts strong, dips, comes back up, and I'm worried about.
And then I continuing my Sopranos rewatch, and I got to Pine Barrens last night, so I'm just like, I'm just like, that's it, man. I just completely forgot about Severance in that moment. I'm like, I'm back, man. This is absolute cinema. Gloria Trillo, man, what a story arc. I'll never forget her, man. Never forget her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was me. That's really all I've been doing. I mean, like Kingdom Come, shitty Marvel movies, and Severance and Sopranos. Yeah.
I mean, Jake, what about you?
I had to put in a new bathroom exhaust fan in my house, and I almost killed myself.
Okay. How did you nearly? What, the electricity or what?
No, because it was so hard and annoying. It was so difficult, and I'm so incompetent at these types of things. But I did it. And then, my dad's an electrician, and
and he didn't do it for you?
In typical fashion, I do not ask anyone for help ever in my life. I do not ask for help. I'm not, like, to my detriment, I won't ask people for help. It's like it's a bad thing. But I explained to him afterwards how I did it, and he was like, wow, you're really lucky. And I was like I could have killed myself. So
please don't do any more things like that. Just ask, your dad to do it.
No, I just go on Reddit and figure it out. It's fine. And watch a YouTube video. It's easy. I watched the YouTube video. I was like, I could do that. That's easy. I cut a hole in my ceiling and I go, oh, that doesn't look the same. So that was
my God.
That was fun. The only other thing I engaged with is no, I got nothing.
Yeah. It's like that at the moment. It's a busy time for our line of work. There's just a lot to keep working on all the time.
Yeah. I mean, last week, that's the thing, I've been playing a that I can't talk about yet.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, same.
However, I'm in Japan. And so that's been what I've been up to. Like, I had a few days of work. I'm, taking my time to go around. I have a big Google map of stuff. I'm going to team labs. There's places to go thrifting, so I really want to get some clothes while I'm out here that aren't just Uniqlo, although I have hit Uniqlo pretty hard. Oh, wait. Oh, I have to get up and get it. I did post it on Blue Sky, but the Uniqlo, your design printed on a shirt or a tote bag, and it's actually really good quality. It's really cute. Damn. But we got there like 15 minutes before the store opened and there was a queue. Like, it is a thing.
Whoa.
But no, I'm really enjoying my time here. I'm trying to, I've been to Japan. I've been fortunate enough to come a couple times before, and there have been like these haunts that I've gone to, and I'm trying to push the boat out and do some more things. I've been also lucky that quite a few friends are in town at the same time. So just kind of having a solo holiday plus dipping into hanging out with friends when I want to. So it's kind of this perfect bubble of stuff coming together. I'm going to the Samurai restaurant tomorrow, which used to be the robot restaurant.
What?
Oh, I didn't know that was a new open thing.
Yeah,
I know the robot was gone. I didn't know there's a new thing. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. So, but the problem is that because it's the weekend, all of the other showings were sold out. So me and my mate are going for a very boozy 11 a.m. brunch.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Why is it called the Samurai restaurant?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it called Samurai restaurant?
It's a show of some kind.
Okay, samurai show.
I don't know. I don't know. All I heard was it used to be in the robot restaurant and it's a big show. I assume it is samurai themed. Oh, but I stayed in the Godzilla hotel, and that was really cool. I like that.
Nice.
Because there's a bar. There's a really nice bar. Cool. There's a really nice bar. And like the rest of the hotel, it has what you need, but it's not exactly a luxury hotel. But the bar is really nice, smooth jazz, themed cocktails, an amazing view of the Godzilla head in Shinjuku. So that was fun. I think I wouldn't have spent my whole week there, but as a little novelty, I did have a nice time.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, I do have something actually.
Go on.
I've needed like passive television, like to turn my brain off after like work and stuff like that. Fired up Netflix. Netflix had This Is 40. A Judd Apatow comedy starring Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann.
This is 40 starring Paul Rudd, what, at age like 76 or whatever he is now?
Yeah. No, like it's an old movie. It's from
right. It's 15 years ago?
Probably 10, 15 years old. Okay. I don't know.
When Rudd was 50. Okay, got it.
And it was written off like it was. I remember watching it and kind of being like, it wasn't that funny. That wasn't like super bad. That wasn't like 40-year-old virgin or anything like that. But I watched it again, just kind of like, I was like, I don't know, just put something on. Here you go. I like Paul Rudd. And it was much better than I remember. And I think it's because I'm older now. It's interesting, though, because I'm older. And like when I saw the movie the first time, like I was still the same, like I still just kind of like exist and play video games and like fart around. But now I'm old enough to like understand some of the things that they're like complaining and joking about in the movie. And yeah,
is it like my back? Is it like sort of shit or what?
You know,
okay,
it's
right.
good insights. It's good, and it's like even though I don't have like kids or anything like that, like it just had some like really funny observations and insights and stuff like that. It is a Judd Apatow movie of that time period where it goes on for far too long,
right?
Where it like ends up being like 2.5 hours. Like a comedy should not be that long. But yeah, that was what I watched.
I think that about does it for this episode.
Yeah,
we gotta get Paul Rudd on the podcast.
I reckon he'd be game, man.
Right, he's around. I think he lives in like upstate New York.
I don't reckon he plays video games though. He doesn't have video game vibes.
If you look like that, you don't have time for video games.
No, I agree.
What are you guys talking about? He was in that. He was in the Game Boy advert. We could ask him a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, a lot of Olivia Newton-John was in the fucking Nintendo weird exercise board. That doesn't mean she uses it.
I think she played video games. She's cool. Or she was cool.
You're right, actually. She's got that kind of cool mom vibe where like you hand the controller to her. She'll be like, I actually really like this. You know, you get home from school and she's sitting there like fiending Call of Duty. Like
hopelessly devoted to video games.
Oh man, Jesus Christ!
Anyway,
time to wrap it up.
All right. Yeah, my hotel Wi-Fi is dying, and I'm getting kicked out of here in 9 minutes.
Nice.
So, thank you for listening / watching another episode of Friends Per Second podcast. We'll be back again in a couple weeks. We have a fun interview lined up for that one, which I'm very excited for.
Oh yes,
I'm hyped. I'm so hyped that I thought it was this week, and I logged on, and no one else logged on. I'm so stupid.
Nice. But yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. You can find us. It's in the links below where you can find us. We're in the same spot. Check out
the Spotify. Please 5-star review us. That'd be fantastic. Or any podcast platform. Love it if you drop us a review. It definitely helps. And same with the YouTube video. Obviously, you hit the like button and
we should start
share it with
reading
your
the
friends.
Reviews.
Say again.
We should start reading the reviews at the end of the show.
Yeah, we didn't do any user questions this week.
Because some of them are very nice.
Next week we've got to get back on the user. We were just vibing this week too much. Yeah. So next week we'll have to do like a double serving of user questions.
Well, now we're using a different service, so we can actually like all listen to them at the same time without having to do our weird sync up thing.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks again.
Cool.
Jake.
Thanks, guys.
Tie your shoes and go to bed. See ya.